So I just recently watched the Home film that came out in the year 2015 with Rihanna and Jim Parsons. Since I just watched that film, and also the fact that the film actually came up to its 10-year anniversary this year in 2025, welcome to my review, or at least some form of a video that I will talk about the film of Home. Yes, let's talk about it. Immediately, I will say that Home is a film which I don't want to say is exactly the film which I grew up with. In fact, there are films which I actually grew up with, but this was one of the ones which kind of I saw when I was younger, but didn't exactly fully see the film in the same way as other films like Earth to Echo. First, starting off with the very first thing, which I will start with Home, which is the storyline, which the storyline is basically there's an alien species named the Boov who basically are great at doing their motive, which is running away, which is not exactly the best motive. They basically run away to Earth out of all places, which unfortunately the doctor wasn't there to say no.
Leave this planet and never return.
They basically abduct humans and basically drop them to Australia, basically making everything else to the Boov until realizing that one of the Boovs, which is the main character, had sent out an invitation to a party which basically he was hosting.
But I do not want. I have sent directions to my living space. Living space. You sent directions to everyone? Uh-oh.
Basically risking everything to the point to where he has to ask Tip, who's basically basically met because of the same place at the same time.
Yeah, can I come into the out now?
No, you cannot come into the out now.
And then also just proceed to just go to Australia to find Tip's mother and trying to get everything scrambled down to where the Gorg doesn't get to Earth. That's basically it for me without trying to spoil this film, which...
But I can. You are just having to take away the piece of wood.
What? The storyline itself is not a bad one. It's not bad, especially for a kid's film. It's basically fine for a kid's film. Now on to the more interesting bits for me, which is gonna be talking about the film and things which I did not like about it and things which I liked about it. Which, first thing which I will say I liked about the film. The soundtrack. Yes, the soundtrack itself is something which I certainly say is basically the main thing, which is probably the best thing at the film. Half of them are actually fairly decent. I think that if some of these were actually like promoted more, then I think honestly something like Dancing in the Dark would be more popular. There's some songs which are thrown into the film, like Only Girl in the World by also Rihanna was in the film.
But there's some shady shit going on!
A lot of the character arcs are just fairly decent with like characters like O and Tip. They're fine as it is. A lot of the Boovs in this film don't really have a lot of backstory. Not backstory as in each character. There's not a lot of characters who are really involved as much. I mean, it's mainly just Tip and O, which is not a bad thing, but you also have Pig. I love how the car also has to be a character in the film as well, which that's actually a nice little thing which I actually liked of the film. But it also reverts itself to also being a part of the Cars films. I will say the animation of this film is totally fine for what it is. 2015 standards, it's totally fine. I think that, like, for the kids' film space, it's fine. It's not like anything too far from like anything from Trolls or Madagascar. It's fine. It's totally fine. Although sometimes there are some moments where it makes me question about some things, or just looks very uncanny at moments. I think going down to some additional details or some stuff which I think is kind of just this is just a weird film for the time. Not weird as in this wasn't an uncommon thing, because we obviously had films like Independence Day or... God, what are some other alien films I can think of?
We are the men in black.
I make this look good.
This was a weird film because this was one where, first of all, Rihanna was a voice actor in this film, one of the main characters actually. And, I mean, Rihanna is not a stranger in the acting space. Like, people like Jennifer Lopez or Jim Parsons, it's one of those things where Rihanna itself is I mean, it's not uncommon for like musicians to be in films, especially as themselves, like, but Rihanna is kind of an interesting choice, especially with Zendaya being one of Shrek's kids. I think the entire thing of the chemistry between O and Tip is, it's something where it's like, it's kind of trying, I don't know, it's one of those things where yes, it's a kid's film. It's not supposed to be taken too seriously. But to me, it just doesn't feel like, it's kind of there, but it's not entirely there. There's some moments where it's like, it doesn't feel like it makes sense, but it's also like, are they joking or is this serious? I don't know.
What is the purpose of your face? Alpine.
You were gonna ditch me?
This doesn't kind of, like, this film itself doesn't entirely make any sense. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, I get it, it's a kid's film, and anything that's kids related is not going to be perceived by adults in the same way. It's obvious because, like, obviously some films made for kids try its hardest to literally be relatable. And it's like, yeah, I get it. I mean, I think some things like the Tips thing with, like, basically the boobs when basically the mother was taken was it was fine and everything, but it just doesn't exactly make the cut. I just think that in itself, there are some things which could have been taken better, which, yes, a kid's film. Yes, kids' films. But it's also a thing where it's like, yes, I wish it was a bit more serious or there's some more background. Also, this film is about an hour and 30 minutes long, which basically is a typical kids' film, which, I mean, it's fine. Again, kids' film. I have to bring this up. It's a kids' film. But it's one of those things where it's like, yes, but I also wish it was a little more serious. It had some more details in and that stuff. It brings up some stuff. And also, it's just okay. It's okay for a film. For a kid's film, it's totally fine. I wouldn't pick this as a kid's film that I would actually go out and actually enjoy. I mean, there are some films which I think in today's space, probably Dogman, which actually probably would be very decent. I actually reacted to the trailer a couple months ago. I can't exactly say that this is, like, bad, but it's also not great either. Like, it's just fine, which also comes down to the general, like, rating of the film, which is gonna just be a 6 out of 10. It's not a bad film. Again, not a bad film, but it's not anything amazing. In fact, I probably want to say that there's probably other films in 2015 which are even better in the animation space. Home itself is a weird movie for the time. It's trying to be something where it invests itself in aliens, but it's also like, I don't know. I wish that there was some form of a Doctor Who reference in this film. Like that would be awesome if the Doctor Who. That's not great grammar. I do wish that Doctor Who made some form of a reference in this film, or something, like some form of alien or something. Make some form of alien references. Yes, the kids won't understand it, but the parents will. I'm guessing they probably wouldn't even understand the idea of the White House blowing up in Independence Day. Or, Monster vs. Aliens? I forgot that was also a Dreamworks property. Well, I just think, though, that the film itself is fine for its time. The animation itself holds up decently. It's not the greatest. There's other animation that's probably better. But generally, the film itself is decent. So I'm gonna say, thank you guys so much for watching this little video, which I wanted to make on Home. Comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later when I talk about, I don't really know, whatever's next. Bye.